Twsbi Swipe. Swipe. When you know, you know. These pens are made by Twsbi and the model is Swipe. It's a new pen by the brand from Taiwan. Very popular pens. These were sent to me by, what's his name again? Joost Appelboom. So remember that you can get a 10% discount at Appelboom Pen. Check my website, the post of the pens on the website. 10% discount, 10% discount. Always nice. These are pens, and I'm going to cover the parts of the pens. I'm going to do a writing sample, and I'll tell you what I like and what I don't like about them. Let's not waste any time because they may have cracked before I'm done. Let's get started. Twsbi Swipe, Twsbi Swipe, Twsbi Swipe, etc. Let's first look at the pen next to another pen of known size so you can kind of compare. Here we have a Pilot Metropolitan, and as you can see they're roughly the same length. The Swipe is a little longer and the Swipe is a bit girthier. Okay, let's cover the parts of this pen. Is there anything before I actually get into that I should say? It's an interesting set, the Twsbi Swipes, because you get quite a lot of stuff in the box. So here we have the box. There's a cardboard sleeve, and there's this plastic box. Comes with a little pen condom, and then there is the pen which fits in there, and then there is the baggie of goodies, and then there is this little information brochure. Now, if you live in the United States of America, oh, say, can you see this Twsbi? It comes with 3 items if you are in the United States. It comes with, and I'll open up this pen to show you, a piston type converter. Works like that, okay, spring loaded. It also comes with a twist type converter, but if you're in Europe, you're a second-rate citizen and you don't actually get that. I'll come back to that. You also get, well, no matter where you are, this Twsbi proprietary cartridge, which is supposed to fit in everything that takes standard international cartridges. But as I said, so I haven't said that yet, but in Brad Dowdy's review, I saw that he tried to fit this in a number of pens, and it didn't fit in a number of pens because it's quite thick. And the same goes for that twist type, sorry, this piston converter. Now, if you are in Europe, you don't get the twist type converter because you're not worth it, apparently. But you do get this. And this is a spring. And this spring is fairly useless. It said so here, it's optional. So you don't need it, but you do get it. If you want to use a cartridge, then you can put that spring in the back of the barrel and then hold the cartridge in place. I'm not going to use it with this because all my ink is going to squirt out. You don't need to do that, but you can do that. This is what I mean by this is useless, because you don't need to do it. So why would you? Well, maybe because it sounds like a really good idea. Okay, the final thing that you can do is fill the barrel directly with an eyedropper. I would probably put some silicone grease on the threads then, but you can do that. So these are the options you have. The Twsbis are interesting because you get many nib options: extra fine, fine, medium, broad, and 1.1mm stub, which is what I have on here. And I will do a writing sample with that. The other pen has, I believe, a fine nib. Yes, that was a fine. I don't like fine nibs, so I have inked it up. It works fine. But I prefer the 1.1mm nib. Okay. Parts of the pen. There is the Twsbi logo on top and the finial here, quite nice in red plastic. We have an unusable clip that is really tight, and someone online told me she cracked the cap trying to operate the clip. If you have a pen pouch like this, you can try to use the clip, but it's not going to work because it's too tight. Then we have nothing else on this cap except for this translucent material. In this case, this is the teal color, and that it's not translucent. You have an ink window, which is quite nice, especially, of course, if you have a pen that is not transparent or translucent, right? You can see how much ink you have left. I like that. And then you have the barrel. The barrel has a 5-sided profile. I was looking for another word, but I think you know what I mean. It's five-sided, and then it becomes rounded here, where the barrel and the section meet. The section is clear, and I do really like that because you can see the nib, you can see the feed, you can see the ink pooled there, which I do think is quite nice. I really like that. You have the barrel that unscrews. It's plastic that actually warps when I squeeze it like this, so I'm pretty sure I can crack this with one hand, should I want to, but I don't want to. And then the pen does post. The section tapers down, flares out a bit, and has a lip there to which I'll come back, and it does provide a very solid clunk when you click that cap in place. Plastic feed, looks like a number 5 nib with the Twsbi logo, which is actually engraved. That's very cool, and Twsbi, and that's pretty much it. Let us see how it writes. I'm going to zoom out a bit, and here we have the Twsbi swipe in a 1.1 millimeter italic, and the ink is, of course, the ultimate, the perfect, the ink of the century, B.R.E. Brown. Writing with this pen is smooth, provided you align the nib, the lazy nib. Why not? To the paper properly, otherwise it can cut into the corners, but it's a 1.1 millimeter nib. That's how those nibs work. Fast writing. Works well. I haven't really had this this pen skip. I will say this, I'm just going to take a sip of tea to keep my throat going. I will say that it slowly runs dry a bit. As I wrote with it, ever so slowly it starts to become a little less saturated. And then you can move it around a bit, and then typically it goes back to being more saturated. I found it overall quite a wet writer, and the nib, of course, here, because of the shape, is already an italic, so you get that natural line variation. That's why you use an italic. It's a bit rounded off, so probably more a stub than an italic, to be fair, but it's quite nice. And that means that you get, without any pressure, this nice line variation, which gives a bit of a calligraphic effect. Now I'm going to be very careful here. You can push down on it, you can exacerbate that line variation a bit, but it's not a flex nib, right? So be very, very careful when you do that. Reverse writing, typically not very successful with italic nibs in my mind, because flat on this side, they're also flat on that side, right? But with other nibs, I'm sure you can, because as you can see, even this one does keep writing. Very nice. We need to discuss what I like and what I don't like about this pen. When I was talking about second-rate citizens, obviously I was kidding. European myself. But questions need to be raised, and thus we shall. What do I like? What do I not like about the Twsbi swipe? Well, it's a pen. I like that. I like that some attention was paid to the shape. Like this five-sided cross-section, I like. I also like that the cap is then round. It adds a certain level of playfulness. I think the most important aspect of the pen is that it's very affordable, as Twsbis often are. And that means you're purchasing something under $30. And that is pretty good as far as fountain pens go, especially when you get a number of accessories such as different converters or these special cartridges, etc. Right? I think that is quite nice. Having said that, there are a couple of things that I'm not particularly enamored with, as the kids say. First of all, the clip is basically useless. It is so stiff that it barely moves. And someone online did tell me that she actually cracked the cap by trying to operate it. So that's, I would say, an issue. In general, speaking of cracking, we have to bring that up. Twsbi pens crack. They do. Even when they're lying in a desk drawer, they will at some point crack. I've had it happen to myself a number of times. Unfortunately, we have not really seen any improvement in that over the years, as far as I am aware of, because I keep seeing issues popping up on pen forums about Twsbi's cracking. Back in the day, you would get replacement parts for free. You don't anymore. The parts are free, but you do pay shipping now. Probably because it was not sustainable to send out replacement parts to everyone. In any case, I'm afraid that remains an issue. And it doesn't really matter how cheap a pen is. If it cracks every X months or weeks or whatever it is in your specific frequency, given how well or how often I should say you use it, then it doesn't really matter that it's cheap, because you have to purchase replacement parts, even if that means just paying for the shipping cost, right? So I would really love to see a Twsbi that doesn't crack in the future. I would love to hear your thoughts on the Twsbi's cracking. If you have a swipe, has yours cracked? This is good for people who are considering purchasing one, right? What else did I have? So we have the stiff clip potential cracking. I have had two. I have definitely used them. They have not cracked, but I've only had them for a couple of weeks, right? Okay. A slightly pragmatic manner is that there is a substantial click when you cap the pen. I have found that that can aerosolize ink, and as a result, in this lip right there, so in this groove here, ink can collect with frequent capping and uncapping. The less this pen moves around, the less it tends to do that. Okay, but if you have something in a bag or something, then that could move around a lot. You could get more of that ink stuff. And with translucent caps like these, you will see that. But more importantly, you feel it, or actually you see it on your hands as you write with this pen. Speaking of that groove here, I have found that when you ink this up with a bottle of ink, this is actually quite hard to clean, because ink gets not trapped in there. Well, I guess it gets trapped in there. It's a fair way to say it. And just casually wiping it may not get all the ink out. So you really have to make sure you really squeeze down as you get the ink out. Another thing that I found is that this section is really quite thin. It's a really skinny section. Not necessarily a problem for everyone. It does taper out towards the back. I don't find it uncomfortable, and I typically prefer girthier pens. So I just wanted to mention it definitely is really quite small. The final thing I would mention is that I don't fully understand the reasoning, but I'm sure there is reasoning behind offering this pen with two separate converters and a cartridge in the US, and with one converter and a cartridge and a fairly useless spring in Europe and some other parts of the world. It is supposedly also a bit cheaper in Europe, but then given the relatively high sales tax there in the Netherlands, 21%, I believe it's still 21%, haven't been in the Netherlands in a while, but that adds up quite quickly. So at the end of the day, I think if you purchase this in the Netherlands, it is as expensive as it would be in the US, and you get a whole converter less. So I don't really, again, I don't know. There may be a very compelling reason to only offer one of the two converters in Europe, but I'm not really seeing it. To be entirely frank, I don't really see the point of supplying a pen with two separate kinds of converters anyway, given that you only use one at a time. You can't do anything with that other converter, and Brad Dowdy in his review pointed out that the converters and the cartridges that Twsbi provides with this pen are too thick to fit in many pens. So then you have a standard type twist type converter, which is nice, but you also have that fun pump action converter, which I will say holds a nice amount of ink. That really is a nice ink capacity. But then why supply another converter too? I suppose what I'm trying to say is I don't fully understand all the choices that were made, but I haven't designed the pen, so I'm probably just not privy to that reasoning. I'm not trying to harp on Twsbi or be mean. I just don't understand a lot of the steps that went into that thinking. And there could be all sorts of things, right? There could be legal reasons why you cannot sell that converter in Europe, although hundreds of pens are sold with similar type twist converters. I just don't know. If you know, leave a comment behind. That's all I will say. A very kind thank you to Joost for sending me these pens. I appreciate it. If you want an awesome sweater like this with the logo, there is a link in the description on where to get this. I hope this was useful, and I'll gladly see you later. Bye bye.